Get strong.
Record, it's going to ask you.
Okay.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's The Beautiful Bag podcast. I'm your host, LeeAnne Hayden, and this week I am bringing you a guest who has a story, and we're going to really dig into it. His name is AJ Barbosa. We have met through a Facebook community group called Body Positivity, and if you are in an ostomy and you want to be around a positive group of people, go search for that group, Body Positivity, or shoot me a message and I will get you into that group, because there's a lot about having a community around us, and it's that important. So AJ, I am so excited to have you here on the podcast.
Hi, how you doing? How you guys doing? I hope everybody's doing well. I'm excited to be here. I look forward to sharing a bit of what it's been like having an ostomy, and hopefully it can inspire you guys to keep fighting.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what you do. Is you are a fighter. You've been through a ton, AJ, and just so you guys know, I mean, AJ, Crohn's brought on his ostomy, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And he's a dad, and he loves his children,
Yes,
and we're going to talk about that. And he's had some struggles too. So, AJ, so let's talk about, your Crohn's and what led you into your ostomy.
Okay, I'm gonna try to piece it all together as quick as possible. But I was 10 years old, going on 11 when I was diagnosed. During that time, I was playing sports every season. I was into either baseball or football, and I was very, athletic and active when I was a kid. And as I got, to this age, my mother had got into an accident where she did die, but thankfully they brought her back. It was a very, the car wrapped around a tree. And when I got to see my mother, it was a lot for me to take in. And then shortly after, she ended up having to go to prison because the accident involved somebody else who passed away. And she, was found guilty of, I think it was vehicular manslaughter. She did some time, and during that time, my parents, on top of that, split up. So as a 10-year-old kid, it was a lot for me to take in, and I was the oldest. So seeing my family go through that, it was tough. And then I kind of noticed I was starting to get, it almost was like a stomach virus, nobody, nor my dad, my aunt, no one who was in my life at that time could understand what was going on. So it was, your typical beginning experience, a lot of hospital visits, poking, prodding, comfortable situations where you're treated almost like a guinea pig, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. I want to say it was about 3 to 4 months in, I was diagnosed at St. Jude's Hospital in Richmond, Virginia, with Crohn's disease. This was something that was completely new to my dad, myself, and at that time, it wasn't that often that you had a child at that age being diagnosed with something as severe as Crohn's. And when I say it was severe, it was severe. I mean, for the entire beginning 2 to 3 years, it was, I couldn't keep anything down. I went from being, I want to say maybe a 90 to 100 pound kid. I was very lean growing up, but at the age of 10, I was 66 pounds at some point.
Wow.
I was stuck to the couch. I couldn't, I didn't have no energy to go outside and play, which that's not me. I'm an outdoor kid. I used to get in trouble for not coming in when I was supposed to. So it was like a complete 360, you know what I mean? And it was a lot to deal with. And then as I got older, it was just the same thing, a bunch of hospital visits, blood work, medication. My dad didn't know what to do. You know, he was doing the best he can, single father. My mother, you know, I love her, I respect her, but she wasn't too active at that time because there was just such a division between respect in my you know, between my parents. So it was just, you know, as a kid, I felt like I was floating in the wind. You know what I mean? So I rebelled when I got older, and I started experimenting, you know, with drugs. It was my escape of what I was really going through. I was trying to hide and not have to deal with it anymore, you know. But I didn't have the guidance uh, to realize that it was not the direction I should be headed in. But I was angry, you know, and that's kind of where it led to a whole bunch of, you know, other experiences, but along the way I began to turn myself around.
Right.
But it
Yeah, you
started
really
at a
have.
very young age.
Yeah, it really did start at a young age. Now, how old were you when you know, everything led to your ostomy surgery? What what was your age at that
I
point?
was so I had graduated from high school in June of 2009,
Okay.
and my first surgery was December of 2009. That summer, that after I graduated, I had got into this party scene,
Mhm.
uh, and I started experimenting with ecstasy. And that whole summer, I was treating my body like a punching bag.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I was. This is not something I'm proud of, and I don't. It's not something that we don't have to go into, but I'm just. It's a part of who I am. I was in the street, you know, like gang life, and um, I was just so completely lost that um, the you know, drugs consumed my body. I ended up having a bowel perforation because I had got arrested. I want to say it was September of 2018. I had uh, got in a, you know, again, bad crew. Um, and I wasn't in jail but a week. It was my, you know, it was a trespassing offense. But during that time, I had to do community service, and I had to pay fines and things like that. So I had got my first job after high school, and I was stocking at Dollar Tree. And one day I was, you know, putting stuff away, and I noticed that my stomach wasn't feeling great.
Mhm.
Um, it just like progressively got worse. So within a couple hours, I at some point couldn't stand up straight. Um, I was trying to run the register, and I noticed I was just like, no, something is absolutely wrong. And I had called a friend, and they came and picked me up, took me to the hospital. It was St. Luke's in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
I'm not too happy about that night because that night I went to the hospital. They did a CAT scan and found that there was no abnormalities. They sent me home with painkillers, and the next morning I couldn't get up. I couldn't move a muscle. I could only move my eyes and hear. Honestly,
Wow.
that was I yelled out to my dad, and my father came into the room and picked me up, and he's like trying to figure out what's going on. I'm like, I can't feel my body, like I can't move. You know, I'm 18 years old and I can't, you know, and he rushes me to the hospital. And this time we go to where my surgeons were, like the doctors that the colorectal surgeons,
Mhm. Mhm.
which was in Bethlehem. It was St. Luke's, but it was in the Bethlehem, different location. So we get there, and all I could remember was a full ER, and
Mhm.
my dad, like his reaction, you know, was almost something out of a movie. They came and put me on a gurney, and I get rushed into the operating room, and it's, you know, just so fast paced. I see my surgeon, they give me the mask. Next thing I'm out, and I
Mhm.
wake up with this bag on my stomach, and I have no clue what the hell is going on. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
So how was that waking? I mean, what a story, but how was that at 18 years old? You wake up and you're in, and is it an ileostomy or colostomy bag? An ileostomy bag, I'm assuming.
So the beginning surgery was a colostomy. It was on the
Okay.
left side of my stomach, because what they
Mhm.
did was they ended up removing the transverse colon, which is
Okay.
where the perforation happened. So they tried to just remove that affected section. You
Mhm.
know, they gave me the bag for the intestine to heal, and then
Mhm.
their goal was in 3 months to reverse the surgery so that I can be without a bag, hopefully, and go from there. But that's not the case.
So you wake up, you're in a bag. You must have, how was that feeling for you?
Um, I can't remember too much. You know,
Mhm.
you figure anesthesia, pain
Mhm.
meds, but I recall more like pictures. So I
Mhm.
was in a pediatric room.
Mhm.
I remember it, you know, like being green and stuff. And the doctor told me that I had a perforation, and that, you know, at that time I even still had Crohn's, you know,
Mhm. Mhm. Right.
but they didn't know I was, at least maybe, I don't know, they didn't do any drug tests. They didn't find anything in my system. But me now, I know that it was the pills and the drinking and the smoking that they caused. I wasn't even taking my own medication, but I was taking medication that's not even supposed to be for me. And then, you know, I'm partying and drinking alcohol like it's water. I was making a bomb inside my body, and then all that work just caused it to explode, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. Now, so you have the surgery, you're in your ostomy, you have multiple surgeries. So
Hmm.
I'm assuming only because I know your story, this didn't change your lifestyle, or did it for a short amount of time?
It did for the time of the cert, because they were pretty much back to back from 2009 to 2011. And then
Mhm.
my son was born December of 2011, about a, a little less than, I want to say, like a week away from being a month,
Mhm.
um, that my son was born. Because my last surgery was November 18th, 17th, I'm sorry, of 2011. And I got out literally the day before Thanksgiving. And I remember, you know, spending it with the family. You know, I was pretty banged up, but my goal was to be out so that I can spend it with my family. I didn't want to be in the hospital. And then my son was born in
Okay.
December.
And then that was after, so now you've had your multiple surgeries and now you're in your ostomy. Um, how has life been like for you over these last 12 years, 12, 14 years, right?
Yeah, it's been so 2011, February 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
about
11 years.
10, 11 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's ironic because that's when I was diagnosed. I was 10 going on 11. Ain't that
Oh,
about something?
wow. That is something, huh? That is something. There's a reason for this podcast.
Absolutely. I believe in
Yeah.
number synchronicity.
Mm-hmm.
So I it took about a year and some change to heal. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do with myself. I felt really bad about myself. I was depressed. I'm like, this bag is going to be with me the rest of my life. And I don't even know where to begin. You know, what am I going to do to work? Who's going to want to be with a guy who's got a bag? You know, I was just so self-conscious and, you know, full of anxiety. I was completely just going a million miles a minute. And I needed something to bring myself back, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the word is grounded.
Yes.
And then I have a friend who introduced me into the gym shortly after, you know, I got, you know, like the wound care doctors and everything kind of said I was good to kind of begin some type of activity. Um, But me, the type of kid I was, even as a kid, I was a risk taker. I
Mhm.
jumped right into it. 5, 6, 7 days a week sometimes. I would leave the gym, the Planet Fitness. I was also at that time that year, I was doing the 9-month program in Lincoln Technical Institute for medical assisting. I was trying to do something, at that time, it was my son. He was little over a year old, and my kid's mother was pregnant with my second son, Julian. And I'm like, I'm just kind of getting out of all this surgery and all that. What am I going to do in my life? I've got 2 kids, you know what I mean? One on the way. So um, started doing that. The gym was literally right down the street. I'd leave every day after the class and go right to the gym with Garrett, and we'd work out. And it didn't take but a month and a half for me to tear an abdominal muscle above my surgery, because I didn't know what I was doing. I
And
was
you didn't
just kind of,
know that you didn't need that when you do go back into these things. And I talk a lot about working out and exercising and things like that, but we've got
mhm.
to, you, like you said, you're the type of person who just go jump right in. You had no idea that that stuff can happen. And education on
No,
that is absolutely
no,
needed. Like
no,
we have
no.
to work our way into that. We have no more. Our abdominals are sliced apart. Like our abs are cut up. So we've got to
And it was pretty heavy weight too that I was lifting. That's what did it for me.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, that I didn't have no one to tell me, all right, so this is what you can do, this
Mhm.
is what you can't do. Just kind of, it was a game of trial and error with me. I treated myself like a guinea pig after that, but it was in a positive direction where I can eventually teach somebody else, because my ultimate goal, even after all that, and I started to get it didn't take but those newbie gains within the
Mhm.
first 3 months. Even after I tell you what, what I did, LeeAnne? I Whatever happened, that muscle, I could see my intestines spaz, and I was there at the gym, I'm holding it, I'm screaming. My
Mhm.
brother's like, yo, what's going on? And I'm like, bro,
Mhm.
it's all right, hold on. And then I continue to work out. You know how crazy I continued
That's
to work
crazy.
out. I finished. I was like, no, we're finishing the workout. That's fine. After that, it was very sensitive in that area. Any wrong turn, if I coughed wrong, if I had a vomit, it would spat. It was. I thought it was a hernia, but
Mhm.
apparently it wasn't. It was just the intestine spazzing, because that part of the abdominal wall was weak after tearing the muscle. And it took me about 5 years to heal. I couldn't really do abs for that entire time, but I continued to work out and build stability around the rest of my body, so that when I was able to get there, I can have some type of, because no matter what you do, your core is your trunk.
Right.
You're going to, and it took me time to figure, that's why I became a trainer, is
Mhm.
because I was like, I need to figure out how am I going to get my body to perform at its best with what I got and I'm going
Mhm.
through, and be able to, show somebody else how to do the same. Because I didn't want nobody else in my situation to go through what I've been through. It's not a great time. It
No.
sucks, but I harness the pain. You know what I mean?
Mhm. And you've been doing amazing things since figuring that out, and like you said, you became a trainer. And I know people come to you and ask you a lot of advice because there are a lot of people that are in ostomies and they're like, I want to work out, I want to look like you, like, what do I do? How do I do it? So what are some of the tips that you tell people that are in ostomies that want to get in shape, that want to lift weights? What are some of the techniques and some of the things that you would tell them to do?
So for me, one of the biggest things that I learned, and just to kind of back it up, like the information. So being, in the medical assisting program,
Mhm.
as much as we probably, like our shared experiences being in the hospital, you learn so much terminology, things. That's why I took the route of wanting to, you know, I initially wanted to get into gastroenterology. That was like, but you know, life leads you in different directions. But needless to say, I took anatomy and physiology like 3 or 4 times between medical assisting, pre-nursing, and my certification for personal training. I learned a lot about the body, you know, and learned about myself. And I realized how at a cell, it's the cellular level that is the most important, because if your cells aren't functioning at their optimal performance, you're going to feel like crap, and other, you know, depending, you know, to what extent. But I noticed a lot of my results, a lot of the results of the people that I helped, it all began not even at the gym, outside at home. You know, what are you putting inside of your body? Especially because we can't, you know, eat. I mean, I kind of do eat whatever I want, but with restriction. Like I have learned moderation. I've learned self-control, you know what I mean? I have some vices, you know, with donuts. I love my
Donuts are
pastries.
amazing.
Yeah, pastries. But like, you know, the spicy foods, the processed foods, though, especially, you know, the fast foods, those, I know that that's not what's going to get me, you know what I mean? I indulge from time to time when I feel that I've earned it, but your cells won't be optimal if you're eating a bunch of junk, you know what I mean?
So
And I've
what would you tell people if they want to optimize their cell function, their cellular function? What are some of the things you would tell them
superfoods,
to do? And what kind of superfoods?
superfoods.
For those that don't understand what
Honest,
superfoods are, what would be
so
superfoods?
a superfood is essentially like it can be, you know, you look at it and it looks like your average maybe vegetable, your leafy vegetable or whatever, but it's essentially a plant that its nutrient history is a lot more concentrated than your typical vegetable. But don't get me wrong, those, it's not to take away from broccoli, you know, your carrots, things like that, those essential vitamins and minerals that come in those things. But it's the fruits, the vegetables, those superfoods are like chia seeds, you know, quinoa, flaxseed, you know, there's quite a few that kind of fall in that category. Some that may not even fall in that category, others would consider superfoods. But essentially these are the foods that they at a cellular level help your body perform and heal at its best, you know, because our environment, we were meant to be alkaline based in human beings. And if you're eating wrong, you can become acidic, and the acidity, the mucus, that production, you know, in the body is what causes IBS, is what causes headaches, you know, fatigue. And that's just all it really is when you boil it down to, you know, the smallest molecule. It's your cells are not getting what they need. So you take these foods in, you stay hydrated because cells need water. You're like 70% water, you know, you need that for, you know, cell transformation. You need that for, well, that and what's the word I'm like transfusion, getting other vitamins and minerals into where they need to be. And
So
a
now
lot
if
of
you're
it just
working with
comes down to what you're
somebody,
putting in your body.
exactly. So if you're working with somebody and you're saying, okay, I want you to get in some superfoods. So, you know, like your wild blueberries, your, he's bringing us to his kitchen. He's going to bring us to his kitchen and show us what his superfoods are. And I love that you're doing this.
Yes, this is where, so the supplements that I take, and then, you know, working, I'm a store manager at GNC. So I get to have these conversations every day with people and show them, you know, things that are important for the body. So one that I recommend is this right here.
And what's the name of
It's
it?
the green Superfoods blend,
Yep.
amazing grass. There's a bunch of different varieties that they have, but they it's concentrated with like, your greens that you can get in a store, but it's more concentrated. It's easier to take because some people don't like getting their vegetables in.
Exactly.
So when I get those customers that come into the store or clients that have those issues, I say this is it. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't taste great either, but it's a lot easier to mask if you put it in a smoothie. If you drink it with orange juice, it may just change the color, but the acidity in orange juice, it cuts the flavor, so it's
That's
just
the one thing
things
I
like
always say
that,
when
that
you take in your greens. That's the one thing I say when you take in your greens. Sometimes it tastes like grass, but that's what it is. It's
yeah,
literally like, you know what I
yeah,
mean? It's your
wheatgrass,
wheatgrass, your spirulina.
spirulina,
We're on the same page.
yeah,
And
oh
it
yeah,
does not taste great, but if you throw it in and mix it in with other things, but it's great because it really works with your microbiome in your gut, and your gut meaning your
just wheatgrass
intestines.
alone contains about 92 different antioxidants, and it has a protein density that's like up there with chia seeds. It's I used to, when I had to go to the gym so much in the beginning, there was a smoothie guy right next to the Planet Fitness, and I would buy wheatgrass cubes. He'd drop them in water, and I'd drink it like a shot, and people would look at me like, you're crazy. My kids, my kids, like, you're drinking grass, that I could go outside and get
And
you
pick
some if
some
you
for
want.
you.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, listen, I'll try it. If it works, I'll try it.
Exactly. And I
But
think that that's what a lot of us have done. A lot of us have done that. What's going to work for me and what's the best things for me to get there. So now, so you've come a long way over the last 10 years. You've fought some struggles that you've had, and now you've had, you're in your ostomy, you're working out on the daily basis, you've got them muscles, you have those gains, you're helping other ostomates as well. A lot is what I'm seeing in the groups too, of just your positivity and showing people that it can happen. Because a lot of people think I can't get muscles.
Yeah.
And
it
then
was tough at first,
okay.
getting all that. A lot of the muscle building just comes to eating. You just eat.
Yeah, you have to eat food, and it's crazy because I did 75 hard, finished it, and my goal was to I lost 18 pounds in 75 days because it just didn't belong on my body. And really what it was is I cleaned up my diet really tightly. Like I went really tight with my diet for 75 days. And now it's like, okay, I want to build some more muscle now that I'm lean to where I want to be. Now I want to put some muscle on. So now it's like, okay, I'm reintroducing a ton more food into my body. But again, it's adding the right foods into your body for each of our bodies, right? Like the healthy fats, the lean proteins, like you said, the chia seeds and the flax seeds and things like that. I mean, they're part of the healthy fat family, that your body needs that stuff. And then, your greens and your vegetables, anything that you're pulling out of the ground. If you're pulling it out of the ground, if it was, or off a tree, you can eat it. You can eat it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes, I mean, it's hard because I meet like some people that they struggle with like roughage and things like that. That's why, for me, I found the easiest way to get these things in were through supplements like the Amazing Grass, making smoothies, because when you blend it up, now you've made it a consistency that it's easier for the gut to, and another thing that I take is digestive enzymes. That's it helps break, because your gut, like it needs help breaking things down, right? You don't necessarily have to take, some stuff has digestive enzymes, but I like to take it because I know that when I'm taking this with everything else, I'm getting the absolute most out of everything, because sometimes certain foods that we get they're already stripped of, their full nutrient value. I'm already, like, I struggle lately getting myself food because things that I see here, I'm having a hard time trusting even the healthy food. Not only is it expensive than, something like a junk food, but it, they're tampering with it, but apart from pesticides, you have to be careful, like for E. coli, like there's been so many like E. coli cases with certain products that I'm like, why, how can I overcame all this stuff for what? To get it again? I've had food poisoning several times. I don't want to deal with this stuff again. So I've trusted, like, for certain things, the supplements is the best way to go.
It is,
And
and you
then like
have to know your
everything else, I
supplements too.
stick to only a few things, like frozen broccoli, kind of frozen everything, but like there's certain ones that I'll get fresh, like asparagus. You can't beat asparagus fresh. Like,
It has to be
in a
asparagus fresh. You
can.
can't do
Yeah,
frozen because
man.
then it gets mushy.
Nah, yeah,
There's nothing like
exactly.
mushy
No,
asparagus.
the asparagus has got to be nice and crispy. You want to hear that snap,
Exactly. And then you said something too, which was good, like digestive enzymes. Now, a roughage for me, because I have adhesions around my colon, so I
Okay.
create blockages, and a lot of people with ostomies either have adhesions or they get blockages, and so they have to stay away from the roughage. Like my GI doctor said, no kale for you, because it sent me to the hospital. So no kale salads.
Okay.
And no lettuce, but I will do like a chopped salad if it's chopped fine. And then I will take my digestive enzymes right after that meal, because I
Okay.
know they're going to break down that food even more so my body can process.
How would you know you have an adhesion? What is that? I honestly, I've heard of it so many times. I never really understood what it
Is or what it does. And you know what,
Yeah.
here's another thing that there needs to be education around. So adhesion, so we think about the scars on the outside of our body, right? So there's scar tissue on the outside of our body that we see.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think about the scar tissue on the inside of our body, because our body has to heal both ways. And when we have these abdominal surgeries that we've had where they're opening up, there is a ton of scar tissue that's left over on the inside, and that's adhesion. They call them adhesions. And what they do is they float around your body until they stick to something, and then they'll stick to something, and then it's like a muscle. It's almost like it will tighten up. So mine is, they found mine because I ended up with a blockage, and I happened to have a blockage at the same time I had a CAT scan scheduled. They happened to see it and they said, you have a blockage. I had to go back to the emergency room, NG tube down my throat to pull all the food out because of the blockage. And they said, well, what is it from? And then they said, you have adhesions wrapped around your intestines. So I have a part, and I know exactly where it is. It's right here in my stomach, right here in my intestines. And there's one part where, your intestines. So you have your intestines, and they just, your food goes through, and that's what it does, right? Your food's going through, and it's just doing the pumping thing, right? And I never knew that until I had an ostomy, and I saw my stoma moving. I'm like, oh, so that's how that looks. That's what it does. And then, so these adhesions, so I have an adhesion that's wrapped around the outside of one part of it. So if I have too much food at a time, it gets stuck. So instead of doing this, it does this. And then if there's too much food, too much fiber, it gets stuck.
It just get compacted.
Yeah. And they said it's more dangerous to go in and remove them because it will create more. Because it's abdominal surgeries. And they don't talk about that. They don't tell you that stuff at all. But that's what can happen. It does happen. I mean, if you have a surgery, you're going to have stuff.
I've almost overate so many times, but like not almost, actually, I've have overate so many times where I feel so bloated that I get almost like friction against my scar tissue in my intestines. And I mean, it's like the most uncomfortable feeling. I've thought I've had blockages, honestly, a couple times. And
you potentially could have. You would think it's like a gallbladder attack. You're bent over in pain. I've got this pain,
like I get it like right here so bad.
It could be that. I mean, I'm not a doctor.
It was just like overeating. It was very horrible. But it's like I never, after being in the hospital so much, there's probably a couple times that I should have taken myself, and I was like so afraid of going back that, I kind of just dove into what can I take, what can I, like eat that will help. And I eventually just, I love to cook too, so I eventually found myself cooking all my meals. And when I saw the combination of the proper supplementation, the right foods in my body, and then the exercise, I mean, I had minor flares, nothing too crazy, just more like for a few days uncomfortability in my stomach, maybe some diarrhea in my ostomy. But I've been in remission, since my last surgery. And the only thing I can really say that's been consistent is that I cut out like so my balance was, a lot of processed foods, a lot of sugars. Once I cut that out and I started eating more whole foods, started supplementing the way that I do and exercise, I've been okay. And, granted, we're all different. Not everybody's the same, but I learned that, our bodies, when you take care of yourselves and they're in that alkaline environment a lot longer, we're not perfect. It's okay to, end up in an acidic environment from time to time. It's not.
It's okay to have your donut.
But yeah, when you're there all the time is where it can become an issue. You know what I mean? But from time to time, to fluctuate like that is not bad. But the way I like to look at it is like a pie chart, right? So on a day-to-day basis, I like to at least be eating clean, good food 60% or more of all my meals and throughout the day, So as long as whatever I'm looking at, I can honestly say like this, looks like 60% or more, a lot healthier of like healthy food, then I'm not really, we've already been this long. Our genes, have adapted, and evolved to handle these processed foods and stuff like that. We've been introduced to all these high sugars and fats and stuff, in the Western culture diet a long time ago. So it's like, it's okay to enjoy that greasy, because I know me, I do. I love a good, nice, greasy burger, but on a day-to-day basis, I keep it very lean, very simple, just so that I don't have to, fuss and fight in the future, with my body.
Exactly. So now, this has been a great, a great podcast, a great, conversation that we've had. We're coming to a close to it. If there was one thing, AJ, that you would want to leave the listeners with, what would be that one thing?
All right, guys. Honestly, the most important thing, in my opinion, and this is something that it's been my story, and I will hope to continue to share it with you guys in the future, either here with LeeAnne or just through social media contact. I'm always here for everybody. I'm just a message away. But it's the mental game. Life begins up here. Everything you do out that becomes outside of you is your thoughts. If you let life get you into a negative or a funky mood, and then you allow yourself to stay there, it's gonna only breed and perpetuate more negativity, more energy that is not healthy for you, nor is it mentally nor physically, because your body will eventually follow up physically if you continue to allow yourself to feel the way that you do. I know, because I've been there, the depression, the anxiety, all that. But once I began my spiritual journey, And I've realized how powerful our subconscious minds are, our thought process. I've overcame a lot of my demons in the gym and lately outside of the gym, because it comes down to reflecting with yourself and taking accountability for everything that you do. And when you could do that, you're more in tune with yourself, and people see that, and it only attracts more people that can understand who you are, you know. So don't beat yourself up too much, because like I say a lot, and I posted it recently, the stars need the darkness in order to shine. You know, we're all stars. Just fight through that darkness, keep pushing forward, you know what I mean, and don't give up.
Oh, I love that message. That is such a great message to leave us with, AJ. And I really thank you for being here with us. Now, if any one of the listeners wanted to find you, where would be the best place or places to go to find you?
So starting with whoever, you know, is on with us on the body positivity group.
Mhm.
I have, as you guys graciously pinned for me and allowed me to do, have Bag Boys Club Facebook page group. I mean, for men with ostomy, a platform where we can, you know, be men. We can talk
Mhm.
about certain experiences that only men go through, that we can be comfortable doing, and share tips and things like that with each other. And I have ideas for that to grow. I just want to start by reaching as many people as I can. My Facebook page is under AJ Barbosa. You can always just message me there. If not, my Instagram handle is I'm that crony. Um, it's IMTHTCROHNIE. My phone number's on there, as well as you could just message me there. You know.
Okay, that's wonderful. And I'll make sure that I have all that in the show notes and in our social media posts so that people can find you and stay connected with you. AJ, thank you so much for sharing your light and your story,
Thank you for having me.
here with us today. So thank you.
Take care.